Hello and welcome back to the channel today. In today's video I thought I would discuss the reasons as to why I still print my images as opposed to storing them on an iPhone. So what I'll do is I'll go through them points and I'll see you in a moment. Still print my images. I come from the days, obviously I was a child of the 80s, and I remember the days of film cameras, where you would have you would pop a film in a camera, you'd have 24 or 36 shots, you'd take all your images like you would do normally with a digital camera. You'd nip into town, drop them off at the photo developers, wait a week, and you'd get a batch of physical photographs, usually 5x7s or 6x4s, in a little wallet. And that excitement and the fun and the excitement of actually getting those images was something that I really enjoyed, and I think it made me more interested in photography. So my first reason that I really print images is because of that physical feeling of having an image in front of me. I think we are, I think in today's situation at the moment, because we are spoilt with, you know, tablets that have high resolution screens, and we have mobile phones that are the same, and you know, computers, all different devices with high resolution screens that are backlit, and they make the images look so great. I think we are guilty of you know, saving them and keeping them on a mobile phone. I think that having that image physically in your hand to look at, to you know, ponder and really feel that moment. It's more about the you know, the feeling and the you know, the actual situation you're in, of having that physical image in your hand. I think it's more personal, having a piece of paper as to a mobile phone and swiping left to right. So I love having that physical print in my hand, so that I can stare at it, I can look at it, I can have it up on my wall and walk past it every day. So my first reason is it's basically because I love that physical situation of having that print in my hand and there to look at every day. The second reason that why I print my images as opposed to leaving them on the phone is I think it makes you a better photographer and also a better editor of your images. I think the problem we have is sometimes if we're viewing the images on a really small screen, or we're viewing them on a big massive computer, it sort of loses the detail of having it, instead of having it on a physical print in front of you. And also you can actually view it as though how somebody else would be viewing it. So I think having a print, it shows up more of the detail, it shows more, and I think it shows up some more of the mistakes that you might make. So an image on the screen might not look the same as looking at an image physically in your hand. And also it can show up things like places that are out of focus, places that are blurred, and sometimes where you've trimmed things off that you shouldn't have. So I think that having that physical print in your hand actually does make you a better photographer and a better editor, because also you're editing to make a print for somebody else as well, as opposed to having an image on a screen that you're happy with. And also I think the one physical thing we do with computer screens is, because they're backlit and they're designed to be viewed in a certain way, is that you miss some of the details of holding that device in your hand as opposed to printing it. So having that print, you can actually manipulate it and move it, and you know, do things with it that you wouldn't normally do with a mobile phone. And also you can do different things with it to make it look better. So I think printing your images does actually make you a better photographer. Okay, My third reason for why I actually print things now is I think printing has become so much more accessible than it was many years ago. I think also, like when I stipulated before about dropping the film off at the developers, also it was the same thing. If you wanted a print of an image, you would have to wait a week for it, and sometimes you would get a print back and it was like, it could be out of focus, it could be blurred, it could be, all different things. And also, I mean, you could do your own printing at home, and but I think years ago when you used to print off film, is that you'd have to have huge amounts of equipment to make prints at home. You would need, developers and enlargers and all sorts of type of different machinery, and it also took a lot of skill and knowledge to actually get the print right. I've spent little bits of time in data rooms in colleges and things like that, and also I've seen many videos of people doing data rooms, and it is an art form. If you enjoy doing it that way, then doing it that way. But what I'm trying to say with this point is that printing is so much easier these days. You can go out and buy a printer for a few pounds now, and you can get some really good quality A3 printers for less than £200 these days. Obviously, if you want to spend more, you can get better quality printers, and you can get some really good printers that are really affordable. And also, there are so many different places where you can upload an image and send it off, and you'll get it back within a couple of days. At quite a reasonable price. You can get a reasonably sized, A2 or A3 print for less than £10-15 these days. So there's so much options and places that you can go to get images printed. So I think it really does make it more accessible and easier to do to get these physical images in your hand. So printing has become so much more accessible for people like myself who don't have the space and the equipment to actually print our own images. I can print an image. I print my images at home now. So, but my printer literally takes up the same space as a computer. So it's so much easier and so much accessible, and paper's cheap to buy, ink's cheap. Ink's relatively affordable now. I mean, you look at some printers and the ink is quite expensive, but you do get an awful lot of prints out of that. So ink and paper is quite accessible these days, and it's easy to get. So I think that printing has become far more accessible and easier to use these days. My next point for printing my own images is that I think it adds a bit of longevity to the images. I know, obviously, when I discussed before about going and getting my images from a printers, or a development place where you develop your films, is that some of those images that I took, maybe 40 years ago to now, many moons ago, I think some of those images are still intact and very good to look at. I've got some images that have been took by family members that are probably, could be, 60, 70 years old. So those images, one of the great things about the images is they do last forever, and it's a timepiece or a keepsake. And the longevity of a printed image can last for a number of years. So I think printing your image can add some sort of longevity to them images. I think these days is that, and I've experienced this as well, is that I've gone through situations where formats have changed, and I've lost images because I've had to change different storage methods or different formats. For example, changing from hard drives to cloud storage to, different formats such as RAW and JPEGs and things like that. So I think having that physical print does have a little bit of longevity of it. But obviously, with any format, it needs to be kept correctly. But I think having a physical print in your hand that somebody's took maybe 40, 50 years ago is such a nice thing to have. I'm just wondering if we'd have the same experience and the same feeling we would have if we still had an equivalent of a mobile phone in 20 years time. So that physical feeling of picking up a photograph or looking at a photograph on a wall that maybe been taken 50 years ago, it far outweighs the physical experience of flicking it on the mobile phone. So it's definitely worth printing your images for longevity and a personal record. One of my final points for the reason why I print my images is that they could actually make you money. Don't get me wrong, selling prints is very, very difficult, and it's very time consuming, and there's so many people out there that can do it. But I think if you drop on, if you do it right and learn the process of printing your images and marketing and things like that to get your images out there, it could actually physically make you money. So it's definitely worth investing in this time to actually work out how you print images, going from a computer to a printer to a physical piece of paper. Can definitely be worth it in the long run, because you could actually go on to sell them prints. And also they make fantastic gifts. I think at this time of year as well, obviously because we're approaching the festive season, I think there's no better gift than something that you've actually created yourself, and I think they will appreciate it more. So it can make you money, and also it can be a very nice thing to give. So I think investing in that time now and actually physically learning how to print images could give you a better future. How do I print my own images? Now I'm lucky in the fact that I've got my own personal A3 printer. I've got a Canon IP8750, which is a printer that does up to A3 prints. It's a middle range printer. I think I picked it up for around about £160, £175, and it might have been a couple of years ago now. So it's not one of the cheaper printers, and it's definitely not in the realms of the Canon Pro 100s, the very expensive printers. But the one thing I've been very impressed with is how is the prints that it does actually produce. It does actually produce some very nice crisp images. But I think the most important thing that I've learned from printing is always use genuine inks. Having the best quality ink is I think is one of the great things about it. It also makes your images last longer, and also you'll find that you will actually spend more on third-party inks, because the problem I've always had with third-party inks is that if you don't use your printer for say 2 weeks, you'll come back and you'll find the printers will be blocked, the print heads will be blocked up, and it'll be dried up, and you end up taking them out, throwing them away, and then wasting a ton of ink the next time trying to clean the internals of the printer to get it to print perfectly again. So I think it's definitely worth investing in really, really good ink, genuine ink if you can. I know they're expensive, but in the long run it does actually save you money, because it saves you actually spending more and more money on ink, replacing ink, and also buying good quality paper. I use a paper from PhotoSpeed. It's a excellent paper. I've had really good results with them. It's not the cheapest paper in the world. You can go into some shops and buy paper for like £2 or £3, but it's ultimately worth the time and effort if you're going to make prints and you want good quality prints, and also you want to pass them on and sell them on to other people. It's worth investing in some good quality paper, and the photo speed paper isn't that expensive. I think I paid about £30 for a pack of A4, which obviously it is around about 20 sheets. So if it works out, it works out at about £1 a sheet. So it's not the cheapest thing in the world, but it's certainly not the most expensive. But it certainly leaves you money in the long run, in the fact that those images will last you for years. I've printed images using cheap quality inks and cheap quality paper, and I've had them up on the wall, and some of them have started to fade terribly, and you know, the colours have flat and you just look horrible now. So whereas some of the images that I've printed on really good quality paper with good quality ink are still looking as vivid and bright and vibrant as they were on the day that you were printed. So it's definitely worth investing in a good quality printer. Anything up to £200. If if you've got a budget for a bit more, go out and get yourself a Pro 100. They are really good printers, but they are quite expensive. Get yourself some good quality paper and good quality ink. So I hope you found that this video useful. If you like what you see, I'd love you to actually subscribe so I can see more of the videos. I do know that I'm hovering around about 60% of people that are not subscribed to this channel, so I'd love to get you folks subscribed so you can see some of my future videos. If you like the video, please leave a like below. Leave me a comment for your reasons as to why you like printing your images, or if you do something better. And also, if you go out and print your images and you get them from an online place and that you're very happy with, leave a comment below for other photographers to discover, to go and explore places that might have good prints. And also, share the images of your prints on the wall. I think it's a great thing to share. So if you want to catch me up on Twitter, I'll be able to do that, and we'll all share our images and we'll see what we got from there. So hopefully you found that useful, and I'll see you again next time.